Have you just learned of some shocking revelations? Or perhaps are starting to notice there might be more than what we've been told about the world that we live in? The truth is, this phenomena isn't going away. Mass disclosures are upon us. Through my own awakening process, I've received an onslaught of life-altering truths to learn and process in robust fashion, and have found that there are ways to navigate such potent revelations without drifting into panic. In this video, we'll explore what's likely to play out in the coming months and years in terms of mass public disclosures, why these things are happening, how to stay grounded while one's worldview may be completely reoriented, and how there is light at the end of this tunnel. If you've landed here, you likely already have some sense of what I'm talking about. But what sort of things am I referring to in regards to potentially shocking public revelations, which is casually referred to as disclosure? Everyone deserves to have disruptive or potentially disruptive information revealed to them in as much of their own timing as possible. So I won't be spoiling everything here or pretend like I know everything myself, because I don't. But I will highlight some general themes, all of which are already well within the public discourse, as once we examine the high-level themes, it will become apparent at how robust of an impact these subjects can have. For example, perhaps you are finding out that the institutions of our world are not as esteemed and noble as we have been trained to believe. From national governments and their long list of agencies, to international governing bodies, mass media outlets, large corporations and nonprofits, could these institutions perhaps not have our best interests at heart? Could they even have had direct intent to cause harm? Perhaps the people within these notable institutions themselves may not be who we thought they were. Maybe corporate executives, politicians and bureaucrats, medical professionals, celebrities, royal families, religious figureheads, even athletes, and more have engaged in awful behaviors while portraying themselves as noble servants, honest business people, or the most deserving entertainers. Or perhaps there are far simpler ways of solving the world's problems than we've been told, and that the concept of scarce resources, environmentally damaging technologies, and frustrating ways of living and travel must be endured. Maybe the history we were all taught in school is inaccurate, or humans of antiquity weren't the barbaric Stone Age peasants we've been told to accept. And perhaps the one thing that rewrites everything else. Maybe we're not the only ones in the universe. Maybe someone else is out there, perhaps even in our own backyard. As I mentioned, this is a phenomena that isn't going away. And how can I be so sure about that? What's the reason why such truths are piercing the veil of public discourse and public consciousness and will continue to do so? The reason is, our entire world is at the end of a major cosmic cycle and on the cusp of a new one that is bringing about a major shift in consciousness. We have been operating at a very low and dense plane of consciousness for thousands of years, maybe longer, where low levels of awareness and a lack of transparency was the norm. And we are now moving to a higher frequency where the light of higher consciousness is shining on what has been hidden in darkness for a very long time. I did speak about this at length in another video if you are curious for a deeper dive into the collective shift in consciousness we are moving through. But essentially, at a high level, we are moving through what could in fact be called the apocalypse. And no, I don't mean the end of the world like the modern interpretation of that word alludes to. The Latin origin, and I believe even the Greek origin of the word apocalypse, is revelation or disclosure. And revelation is upon us. Everything in our world that was hidden in darkness will be revealed by the light. The rise in frequency of our world will not allow anything to remain hidden. So how will all of this play out? The truth is, it's already been playing out for many decades, with a gradual increase in frequency and slow buildup of revelations. Maybe a lot of people out there have no idea that this has been happening, but for those with the eyes to see, those willing to seek out information, the potent truths of our world have been available at increasing levels for many years now, with more being exposed on a daily basis. This should be apparent when considering the progress on narratives that are outside of mainstream discourse, or especially what used to be called a conspiracy theory. When examining the public discourse on any topic now versus a few years ago, just about every single topic has made major strides and is now openly discussed on mainstream media and the largest podcasts and by the most popular news and commentary personalities. Hardly any topic is considered fringe anymore. And this will continue to play out going forward, likely for many more years and possibly decades to come. This will play out like the raising of a dimmer switch, very slowly, with slow build-up over time, but likely more robust reveals happening at various intervals. It will happen piecemeal over time with a bit of information here and a bit more there to allow time to digest and integrate without overwhelming destabilization. This playing out gradually is a good thing, as the human psyche is quite fragile, not very open to new ideas, and unfortunately easily manipulated, especially when in states of fear. Hardly anyone accepts new information that contradicts their worldview the very first time they hear it. Everyone will move at their own pace and will likely be subconsciously experiencing internal pressure mounting over a variety of concepts. People often resist at first, and possibly for very long periods of time afterwards, until eventually the truth becomes undeniable. And that's when something clicks, or perhaps even shatters. Expect to see more files being released by government agencies around the world, whistleblowers revealing first-hand accounts, first-hand witnesses of awful behaviors, images and footage let out in piecemeal fashion. Perhaps, like has been the norm for some time, they may seem like small glimpses or even redacted files that don't reveal all that much, or maybe video footage appears blurry or questionable, or just standalone information without anything else to corroborate it. This is part of the process. Unfortunately, humanity doesn't get engaged unless there's some kind of drama or shock value involved, or someone they themselves trust gives their seal of approval, or most importantly, until it directly impacts their own life. But it is moving in a fashion to allow delicate subject matter to ripple through the collective in the most digestible manner possible without causing panic. So how can we navigate all of this? Perhaps this might be sounding pretty intense to you, and to be truthful, it will be. I'm talking about every aspect of our reality being exposed to the pure light of truth after thousands of years being starved from it. This will not be a gentle walk in the park. But that does not mean we are all doomed. Far from it. I will share some things that may support you in navigating the major revelations of our time. First, I will assure you that you are not given anything that you can't handle. You have the strength to face anything in your path, including having your worldview shattered to pieces, only to reemerge with nothing but the truth. With that being said, I will also impart to you that there are people out there, millions of people probably in fact, who have faced the hard truths of the things you might be opening up to. You are not alone. Someone has walked the path before you, many of whom went through the metabolizing of such disclosures all on their own, with no one to talk to, or were even ridiculed for the things that they discovered and shared. And they're still standing. For many, their own journey to truth has been a solitary rite of passage, but it does not have to be that way for you. I can assure you that whoever you are almost certainly connected to at least one person who has reached a level of knowledge around at least one subject matter or one specific revelation prior to you arriving at that point, who may be willing to support or at least commiserate with you so that you still feel connected and safe. All of humanity, after eons of separation, focusing solely on ourselves and perhaps a few other people around us, will be going through this rite of passage together. So leaning on more of that togetherness may be a wise thing to do if you find yourself facing challenging disclosures that may have impacted your entire community. Now I will share my take on how to navigate the information itself that is set to be disclosed to the masses. I'm sure by now many are aware that not everything put out on the internet or in the media can be 100% truthful. But before diving into that and going there, I will first share some practical tips for navigating the stresses of what might lie ahead, because sometimes it may be easy to just get caught up in it anyways, without much concern for discerning fact from fiction. Sometimes the storm just kind of pulls us along. And there are likely to be events and revelations or things that come into your awareness, whether 100% truthful or not, that may cause a stress response in your body. So I will share how to take care of yourself as the collective moves into uncharted territory. First, I would offer the notion to potentially prepare yourself for such a notion to happen at all. That you may, in fact, have a worldview, thoughts, beliefs, opinions that are, in fact, completely wrong. And that you may have been convinced, tricked, and perhaps even overtly manipulated into having those incorrect beliefs. And that's totally okay. You are not a bad person or stupid for having ended up with a worldview that you have. It is just a byproduct of the culture and frequency we have lived in for a very long time. But maybe practicing in your mind that something you hold to be true may not, in fact, be. Embracing humility up front may be a wise thing to do to soften the intensity of what may come. Being less attached to your worldview makes it less painful if it must be discarded by other superseding truths. Ultimately, if you think you have a strong grasp on the way our world works solely based on what you were taught in school or the prevailing mainstream narratives, prepare yourself to be humbled thoroughly. The rabbit hole goes incredibly deep and wide. But moving on, if you find yourself facing the revelation of something truly massive for you that feels like a major challenge, what can be done about this? This is where the mind will likely do everything it can to avoid the situation. One's ego cannot often tolerate having itself threatened in major ways and will look for a way out, either by denial or throwing some kind of a tantrum and looking for someone else to blame. None of these responses are wrong. But what will allow for the fastest and most easeful navigation of such an experience is acceptance. Acceptance that this is happening. Not to blindly accept what is being revealed, which I'll get into later on how to increase discernment during the process. But when you do hit a threshold where the truth can no longer be denied, where your own knowing and intuition have confirmed what has been revealed in the external, burying your head in the sand doesn't make it go away. Acceptance may feel like a defeat, but in reality, the truth shall set you free. The sooner you face and integrate it, the sooner you can move forward from a new level of awareness. But perhaps that may be a challenge regardless. Perhaps you may find yourself struggling to cope or having a severe stress response. What can be done about that? The truth is, all stress that isn't involving physical danger is basically the same in that it is created in the mind, which means it's simply about reducing the stress response in your body and mind. So how does one do that? I will now share a 4-step process that can be applied to support yourself and land in a place of clarity so you can make grounded, wise decisions and not fear-based panic responses. Everything in regards to being in a state of well-being starts generally with a regulated nervous system. If your body is acting as if you're being chased by a grizzly bear, then nothing else matters. So first, it would be wise to regulate your body and your nervous system if it is, in fact, having a stress response. And there are a variety of things one can do to regulate one's nervous system, and you can use your intuition as to which feels most aligned for you. What I'm going to share here is not completely exhaustive, but just some examples. Now, the simplest and perhaps most effective way to regulate your nervous system is to regulate and slow one's breathing patterns. Our bodies register slow, long breathing as being safe and short, fast breathing as stress. Then you also have things like meditation, or giving yourself a daily routine and adhering to some form of structure. When the outside world is starting to feel uncertain, if you can create certainty in your internal world and your day-to-day life, that can calm your nervous system. Then you have things like time in and contact with nature. Nature is a very grounding environment to be in and will release some of your stress from your body. Anything that you could categorize as self-care would be very supportive, whether that is getting a massage, having long baths, long showers. Sleep and rest, of course. If you are sleep deprived, that is only going to exacerbate any type of anxiety that is moving through your system. Simply put, you want to take care of yourself as best as possible. Then, once your body is perhaps in a more relaxed state, the next thing that tends to happen is your mind gets activated. You start possibly scanning for problems, for solutions. How do I get out of this? Who is to blame? Is any of this real? What do I do next? So on and so forth. But it's generally coming from a type of unsupportive mental chatter as opposed to being very grounded and having a higher perspective. It's typically not that type of grounded, wise thinking. So the next thing to do would be to calm your mind. And there are a variety of things that can support in the calming of your mind, and there is a lot of overlap in the activities that calm your nervous system and your body tend to do the same for your mind. So again, things like meditation, which you can do, the direct practice of calming one's mind. Again, time in nature. It's very quiet and peaceful out there. Naturally will calm your mind. But perhaps the biggest thing one can do is engaging in the practice of reducing the amount of external noise and information that is adding to your stress, which perhaps could be taking time away from the exact information that may have caused that stress. Being very intentional about what you're letting into your mind that may be exacerbating some of that stressful state. Perhaps turning down or reducing the amount of online chatter you might be seeking about some of these disclosures. And you can also carry that pattern in terms of reducing time with certain people who may be amplifying some of that state of nervousness and anxiety. If you have people in your life who are very naturally worried and in a state of fear, where it's easy for them to dip into that state, they will impact you in the same manner. Generally speaking, just things like quiet time and turning the volume down on your life will be very supportive again. Things like long showers, baths, things like yoga even can help get you into a flow state, or anything else that could get you into a flow state can bring you back to center. So now, after calming your body and then your mind, but you may still feel like you're in a bit of a storm, or you might still be feeling things, that is the natural next step in this process, in that emotions will now feel safe enough to rise to the surface. And this is a good thing. Generally speaking, many of us have been repressing a lot of emotions throughout our lives as a way to navigate our day-to-day lives. And if they're coming to the surface, it's because they are needing to be released and expressed. So this is a good thing. And the best thing one can do in that circumstance would be to allow it to happen without questioning it or stopping the flow, which is suppression, and what essentially makes it even worse and will eventually make it come out in an even more robust manner. Next thing you want to do, as the emotion is moving through your body, it may be supportive to actually assist that process in moving your body. Sometimes it can be enough to just feel the emotion, but to really move it through your body, the emotion carries an energetic signature, and actually moving your body will help express it and discharge it completely from your body. So doing things to engage your physical body with movement can help it discharge even faster. So that could be anything from dance to yoga, even martial arts, very good for getting some of the more angry type of emotions out of your body. And you don't even have to do anything super formal. You can just punch a pillow or anything of the sort to just let out some rage if that is what is being brought to the surface for you. This might be a time where you want to do a bit more robust breath work that can enhance reaching more of a peak state to really flush out some really intense energies. Or you can even just do what animals do out in nature. They shake their body out when they are done from being chased from a predator. They shake their bodies out to just let out some of that stress. That is something that you can do as well. You can even just engage your voice in some manner. Things like screaming or singing. Anything that comes to mind to just shake your body out and get some of that discharge that wants to be released. Now, after this cycle has completed, generally speaking, most likely you will arrive at a new baseline and a new level of spaciousness. Now you will have clarity on how to act and how to proceed from a more grounded manner. Now you can respond instead of react. And then repeat as necessary when the next shocking thing, next potent piece of disclosure gets revealed to you, or enters your awareness over the coming months and years. Calm your nervous system, and then you calm your mind, allow emotions to rise, and then you move them through your body. And then act from a new baseline of clarity. So this could be considered a repeatable recalibration loop for living in uncertain times. This will take some mindfulness to think about if you're in a state of shock or overwhelm. So it could be wise to start engaging in these activities as part of a routine, so they are already ingrained as a practice, rather than having to learn something new in the middle of being involved in some kind of chaotic spree of your life. Perhaps you've been able to fully settle yourself in the midst of some chaos, or you at least have some tools to now reach for in case something arises in the future. Now it may be prudent to think about the information itself that will be disseminated into the collective over the coming months and years, and how to navigate that process. By now, I'm sure most of us are aware that not every piece of information can be taken directly at face value, or is without some form of an agenda behind it. Add to it now the proliferation of AI, and it is hard to even tell what's even real or might be completely fabricated by computers. Many are also understandably disillusioned with many, if not all, institutions or people in positions of influence and authority, expecting anything released to the public to be tainted by falsehoods. This is totally understandable. We have been lied to for a very long time, so it might be normal to assume anything that's given to the public to be under the same false pretenses. Perhaps we've been fooled enough times to no longer trust anyone or anything in the manners of public justice or disclosure. These are not wrong positions to be in, and it's why I will not be encouraging anyone to blindly trust anyone, not even yourself, as we can all be duped or fall for an AI deepfake. Despite the challenges of conflicting reports, dwindling trust in institutions, you will still be asked, if not forced, to face what is brought forward in the collective. How can one do that without being swindled yet again, or just dismissing everything as just another cover-up, psyop, or a distraction event? Not everything is a distraction. Some things will be the honest truth. But if you are expecting someone unequivocally trustworthy, saintly, or chosen by a divine source to be a supreme arbiter of the truth, you will likely be let down. You will still be asked to utilize your own discernment. This will also be, and has been for a time now, a practice in developing one's intuition, inner knowing, and discernment. Humanity at large has gotten itself into the illusions of our world in part to blindly adhering to the mandates of those in positions of power for thousands of years. The truth won't come to you in the same fashion. It will come from within. So this will not be a lesson in pattern recognition, deciphering coded messages, or body language analysis of who's telling you the truth versus who is lying, although such things can be helpful. It's not about picking out the specific individuals who you can trust unequivocally and telling you to listen to their interviews or testimonies. Ultimately, with the technology available, anything can be faked. With the amount of money and influences certain forces have had, almost anyone can be coerced into doing the bidding of someone else or disseminating false information. What cannot be faked is your own knowing. You don't need to become a professional researcher and spend hours online diving down rabbit holes, although that can be supportive. Self-sourcing one's knowledge base is always going to be more robust than just digesting what is given to you by your favorite news outlet or podcast host. If you've never spent much time researching these things for yourself, then you are in the easiest position to be swindled, as you have no self-sourced foundation or experience in arriving at your own truth, all on your own. Verification is usually a good practice, rather than blind trust. But even still, there is a threshold of knowing that is available to you without much effort. It is entirely possible to hear 10 different accounts on one disclosed topic, and you may instantly know which one feels the most true to you. It doesn't always mean you'll be fully right the first time. It is a process of training your discernment and eventually noticing patterns. But if you can take some time to remove yourself from the noise of everyone else's opinions, to sit with yourself in stillness, the real truth can begin to emerge from within. I will reiterate that the coming months and years ahead will be quite revelatory for all of us. Things will get weird. Expect the unexpected. But there is light at the end of this tunnel. On the other side of learning how our world may have been immersed in wretched levels of darkness for a very long time is a new world. The secrets of foul play will reveal a better way for us to live as a society. Repressed technologies will reveal how much better we can all live in a material sense. The masks falling off will allow us to see who is worthy of genuine trust and leadership, and how we may be better stewards of this planet. But the real reason this is all happening is so that you remember who you are. That perhaps you are not just an amalgamation of cells and physical matter, scraping by a meager existence on a rock in a lifeless void in space. The real truth that everything else has been covering up is your true nature. Who we are as a species. Where we come from beyond this world and beyond this plane of reality. What our power truly is. There is major light at the end of this tunnel. A world of truth, with the veils of illusion no longer draped over our eyes, so that we may live our full potential as one human race. Hopefully, this brings a little bit of certainty in uncertain times, to have some level of awareness of what may lie ahead and how to navigate. If you find yourself struggling to reconcile explosive truths, having intense awakening experiences, or hoping to live a life more aligned with your own truth and sovereignty, I do offer one-on-one support in these exact areas. I've had the full gamut of awakening experiences, having my entire concept of reality shattered in an instant and faced the full weight of the harsh truths of our realm. Whatever you are navigating, I have almost certainly experienced something similar. I welcome you to reach out through my website link in the description. I would be happy to meet you in whatever you are navigating. That wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.